Good morning, everyone. Well, morning for me. This is a video I'm doing because a couple of days ago, I was asked to test a puzzle by Panthera. And this is the puzzle on screen here. It's called 159 with 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8. It is a new rule set that I had not encountered before, and she had posted it to the CTC Discord server and was after some test solves. And I I agreed to test this puzzle, and it turned out to be quite challenging, but also a very interesting puzzle. And I did want to do a video on this, although I am very nervous about this video because this puzzle was quite challenging, and I am leaving myself open, even though I've solved it before, to look quite foolish. I think the first time I solved this puzzle, and I only vaguely remember the solve path, I think the first time I solved this puzzle, it took me well over 2 hours, but I hope I remember enough that this video will not go that long. If it goes anywhere near that long, you will never see it. So what I want to do here is to try and make this because it's a new rule set, or at least it is to me, try and make this video one that will explain the rule set to people and show them some of the really interesting tricks that Panthera has been able to work into this puzzle. It is frankly brilliant. I really do enjoy this puzzle. So into the rules for how it works. So it is a normal thermo rule set. So normal Sudoku rules apply, 1 to 9 in each row, column and box, which without being repeated. It is normal thermo rules. So along the thermo shapes in the grid, digits must increase. So if you were to have a 2 in the thermo, then this digit must be higher, so that must be 5, and that would mean this digit here must be higher than 5. It could be any of 6, 7 or 8, but it couldn't be a 9, because if I put a 9 here, then I would have nothing to put here. So this could be a 6, and then this could be an 8, and that is strictly increasing from the bulb up the thermo. So that's how thermos work. The reason this is called 159 with 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8 is there is a, not common, but there is a known variety of Sudoku called 159. And what that is you, within columns 1, 5 and 9, the digits in those columns will refer to the digit where the 1, the 5 and the 9 are in those columns. So what you would normally see is something like this, and then in a 159 puzzle, if you had a 3, let's take it out of highlighting mode, let's turn that off and then go back to number mode. If you had a 3 here, this would mean that the 1 would appear in column 3. Similarly, if you had a 7 here, this would mean the 5 would appear in column 7. So what you've got is you have, with 159, you've got whichever digit appears in these columns will refer to where that digit appears in that row. The reason this is called 159 with 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8 is that rule applies to every number in the grid, every column. So it's not just those 3 columns, it is all of them. So if you were to have a 4, and I've done it again, if you were to have a 4 here, then that means that the 2 in column 2 in row 3 must be in column 4, and then by definition the 4 in row 3 has to be in column 2. So every single digit will refer back. So that's the rule set for this puzzle. It took quite a while for me to wrap my head around, and let's hope that I manage to solve this so you get to see this video and I've done Panthera the justice that this puzzle deserves. So let's have a look. So I am definitely not adverse to putting lots of pencil marks onto thermos. So we've got this. Now, this is automatically interesting to me, and this was one of the first things I remember finding, because this refers to, this is going to point to where 9 is going to appear. We know that 9 in row 1 will have to appear here, 9 in row 2 will have to appear here, and 9 in row 3 will have to appear here, which means 9 in box 1 is restricted to those cells. 9 cannot appear in column 1 because of this thermo. And this is a trend that is going to appear a lot in this puzzle. When a digit is restricted by a thermo, it will mean that that digit is going to be locked out. So no 1 there, it means that no 9 there, which of course immediately restricts the position in this thermo. Similarly, you cannot put a 1 here. So the only possible positions for 9 in column 1 are here, here, and here, because the column 1 is fully filled by thermos, so you can only put 9 at the end of a thermo because there's no digit higher than a 9. But in order for there to be a 9 in column 1, there needs to be a 1 in column 9. You cannot put a 1 here, so that can't be a 9. You cannot put a 1 here because a 1 can only go at the start of a thermo. That cannot be a 9. So this has to be a 9, and this has to be a 1. This takes 1 out of here, takes 2 out of here, takes 3 out of here, takes 4 out of here, and all of a sudden this cannot be a 9. Cannot be a 9 because 2 is removed from here and 3 has been removed from here, and now the only place in box 1 you can put a 9 is here, and that puts 9 in one of those 3 cells. So that sort of restriction is going to flow through this whole puzzle. And the trick is going to be figuring out how that works. Not sure where to go next. 8 is restricted to 3 locations, but 8 doesn't have the same sort of restriction. So 1 can only go here. So, yeah, but that would be fine because a 1 would be pointing to itself, so that's okay. So this can't be a 9, so we've got 8, 7, 6, 5. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 9 is in one of those. Oh, that's a 9, so that has to be a 3 because we know where the 9 is. So that's a 3, which makes that a 2. That being a 2 makes that a 9, and we can take 9 out of those. And this is the thing to remember. Whenever you get one digit, you will always get 2, which means that is not a 2. Whew. I don't think I've ever encountered a Sudoku variant where I miss things as much as I do in this puzzle, but oh, I enjoyed solving this the first time so much, and I hope I will this time as well. So this thermo has started being quite restricted because this cannot be a 1, 2 or a 3. So even though this can be a 9, this could be as low as 8, it can only be 4, 5, 6, 7 or 8, and this is 5, 6, 7, 8 or 9. So you cannot put a 9 here, so this can't be a 7. You cannot be a 9 here, so this cannot be a 7. And again, that's just another weird thing to look out for, is the fact of those referring digits. Yeah, it's so 9 in one of those two in this column. If 9 was here, 9 can only go now here or here in column 7 because we've eliminated it from here. But if 9 was here in row 7, this would have to be a 7. No, I don't see anything wrong with that. Sure, I'm missing something. Because the same is true up here. Eight can be 8 could be here, here or here, but 8 can't be here anymore because that can't be 1. So 8 is in one of those two. And while I hate pencil marking across boxes, that you kind of I kind of feel I need to. But it means that this now has a maximum of 7 and this has a maximum of 6. I'm going to pencil mark those. And 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I know these are horrible pencil marks, but so I've got 8, 7 and 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I'm going to do the same here. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that one is more restricted because of the 3 there. This can't be a 2. Okay, now is the time. I do remember discovering this the first time I found it, and it was definitely a oh wow moment, and I was just reminded of it here. So this is kind of the first trick that you need to discover, and it's very, very well telegraphed, I feel, in this column once you spot it. if you want to, I highly recommend you try and solve this puzzle on your own, and I have provided links below, as I always do. But at this point, if you really don't want to be spoiled, now is the time to try and go on as to the tricks in this puzzle. Now is the time to go check, but I'm about to spoil the trick. So, because of the nature of the way that the digits refer, what happens if you put a 2 or a 3 in here? So, for example, if this is a 2, what you will have to do is you will have to put a 1 here because you've put a because you've said that 1 will be in column 2. So 2 here means 1 here, but this is a thermo, and that will mean that 1 has to be here, and you'll have 2 1s in the box. So this can't be 2. If this is a 3, you've said that 1 is here, but you've also got the situation where this could be 2, so that might work. Sorry, if this is 3, this is 1, and this might be able to be 2. But there is this weird constraint on... Oh, sorry, if this is 3, this is 1, this becomes 2, and this becomes... Either this is 1 or this is 2 and this is 1. Because if you put 2 here, you've said 1 is here. So even if 3 is here, that's 1. If this is 1, you've got a conflict. If this is 2, you put a 1 here and that's a conflict. So every one of these thermos must have 1, 2, 3 at the top, 4, 5, 6 in the middle, and 7, 8, 9 at the end. And the reason for that is that reference point. If you have, and I can demonstrate it here as well, if I was to put a 3 here, I would put a 1 here, which means that 3 means I have to put a 1 here because I need to do the 2, and I can't do it. If I was to put a 6 here, then that 6 would mean I would need to put a... something lower than that here. So say I was to put a 5 here. Now the 6 here means I put a 1 here. If I put a 5 here, I have to put a 1 here. I can't do it. And if I put a 4 here, I have to put the 4 here. Now if I jump down to a 3, I've put a 1 here, and then I need to put a 1 here. You always end up with a conflict if you do not break up these cells into 1 to 3, these cells into 4, 5, and 6, and these cells into 7, 8, 9. And I know that's a little tricky to see, but finding that was the first real trick to breaking this puzzle open. So you can take 4, 5, 6 out of all of those cells, and you can take 2, 3, and 7 out of that. You can take 2, 3, and 7 out of that. You can take 3, 4, 5, and 6 out of that, and all of a sudden you've got this wonderful little breakdown. So that means you know that 1 must appear in the top row here. 1 must appear in the top row here. 1 must appear in the top row here. 1 must appear in the middle row here. 1 must appear in the middle row here. 1 must appear in the middle row here. 1 cannot be there, so this cannot be 5. And 1 must appear in the bottom row here, but it can't appear there, so this is a 1, this is an 8, this is a 7, this is a 1, and you're starting to get this wonderful referential system happening, all because you've discovered that you end up with conflicts if you try and do anything other than 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This column is just beautiful in this puzzle once you figure out how to make the trick work. So this has given us the 7, 8, 9. Of course, how to go from here, yeah, still a lot of work to do. So because of course ones on thermos, pardon me, are the least powerful of the digits. So if this is a 9, this is a 7. If this is a 9, I still don't see any reason why any of that's not true. So this can't be a 1 anymore. So if we go 9, 8, 7, 6, this is 2, 4, 5, 6. This is 4, 5, 6, 7. 5, 6, 7, 8, 6, 7, 8, 9. So this is meaning 7 is there or one of those. 7 is in one of those. 7 is in one of those. 7 is in one of those. I'm not sure. This can't be a 7 because this would have to be a 7. Sorry, this can't be a 3 because this would have to be a 7. 7, 8, 9 is a conflict. So this cannot be a 3. Which means this cannot be a 4. Which means 7 now is limited to those. 7, 2 can only be in one of those 3 spots in the column. So that means 7 can only be in one of those 3 spots, but I don't think that's... It almost feels like a weird X-wing relationship that sort of happens. You end up with sort of X-wings or swordfishes based on the pointing digits. It's a very, very strange constraint. And I'm sure that anyone watching this video is seeing things that I am missing. So where can 2 go in this row? If 2 is here, that becomes 4. Yeah, that's all fine. 2 is here, that becomes 5. This can't be a 9, so this can't be a 7. Nine here can't be there, so this can't be a 5. So that puts 9 in one of those 3. Eight is in... If that's an 8, that's a 9. Oh, sorry, 9 is in one of those 3. This breaks my brain. I am going to persist on this and let people fast forward through watch it on fast speed or fast forward through the dull bits, because this puzzle really does deserve to be seen. I hope Panthera does submit this to someone like Cracking the Cryptic or to Ranksk, because it really does deserve to be seen. And what is very, very strange and is almost fitting for me doing a Sudoku video, there is a plane flying outside my window, which never happens where I live. But I'm doing a Sudoku video, so of course it has to happen now. 3 in this box must appear here, because it can't appear here. So that puts a 3 into this column, which puts a 3 down here. So this must be a 3, which means this is a 7, because 3 couldn't appear here, and I had a fixed 3 here. So that's interesting. So that becomes a 7, this becomes an 8 or a 9, so that has to be an 8, so that becomes the 3. Here we go. This is not an 8 anymore. Now, can I do something similar with 2s? I think I can. So 2 must appear down here, which means 8 must appear in there, which we kind of know from that. But it means 2 must appear in one of those, which means 7 must appear in one of those, and it can't appear there, which we've got from that already. Damn. Yeah, maybe that's a helicopter outside my window. This can't be a 3 anymore because I can't put a 1 there. And there's a 3 in the... Yeah. Basic scanning. Watch me fail it. So this can be anything up to... Well, I can't put a 3 there, so it can't be a 1, which it can't because of that. But it can be 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6, I think, because I can put a 3 into any of those. Maybe I want to look at this. This can be 8, that can be 7, that can be 6. So this is 2, 4, 5, or 6. This can be 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7. And this can be 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8. So 5 has to go here or in one of those, but we've already got that defined. Does mean 9 has to go in one of those 2, however. Nine. The constraints on this are just weird. And I'm sure I'm missing something else at this point. So 1 must appear here or here, but I've already got that by 5 being restricted to one of those. Of course, the same sort of restriction here. It's not as powerful in these, but it still probably comes into effect. So if this is a 4, so, oh, yeah, it will definitely come into play. I've just got to figure out how. And which thermo is most restricted. So, for example, because these cross boxes, they're not quite as powerful. This one is all in the same box. So, because 5 has to appear in 3, I can't have 5 in similar boxes. I think that means if this was a 4, that would put a 5 here. Then this would have to be, it'd have to be higher than 4, and it couldn't be 4, 5, or 6, and I actually can't have that as a 7. So if this was a 4, a 5, or a 6, then this would have to be a 4, 5, and a 6, and I'd end up with 2 in the same box. This has to be a 2. This has to be a 5. This now can't be a 3 because I would put a 5 into the same box. Yeah, this is the same thing, and I cannot put 4, 5, 6 here for the same reason. So you've always got to watch out for the same restriction. It's much more obvious in this column, but it does come into play. It's not as powerful where it crosses boxes, but it might still work here and here. But I'm going to finish looking at this. So this means 5 has to be in one of those 2 spots, and 5 has to be in one of those 3 spots. Now, it probably comes into play here as well. If this was a 7, this would be an 8, and this would have to be a 7 because I would be saying that the 7 is in column 8. So this cannot be 7. Stop doing that. BremSter, you're an idiot. So if I put a 7 here, this would be an 8, this would be a 7. That doesn't work. Similarly, if this was a 6, I'd be saying this was a 7, but before 5, 6 here, we'd be putting a 7 in there. I cannot put a 5 or a 6 in here. Same thing is happening here. So I now know that the 7 is in there and the 7 is in there. Now, it's almost certainly true here as well. So to be true here and here, but it won't be true necessarily true here. So let's see what I can figure out. Now, this is much less powerful because I can put the 3 into any of those. So that one doesn't have the same restriction. Okay, so let's finish here. So if this is a 6, that would put the 7 here. This would then have to be a 5, putting the 7 here, and I'd end up with 2. So this cannot be a... Once again, this cannot be a 6. Similarly, if this was a 7, that would be putting the 7 here. This would be an 8 or a 9, putting a 7 here. That doesn't work. I cannot put a 7 or an 8 in here. So this 5 or 6 means one of those 2 is a 7, one of these 3 is a 7. And I've already got 7 restricted down here. Now, this thermo means I can't put a 7 there anymore. In fact, I can't even put a 6 there anymore. So this is 4, 5, putting 7 into one of those 2. This has to be less than 5, so this is 2 or 4. But can it be 4? Because if this was 4, that would be putting 7 there, and this would be 5, putting 7 there. This now has to be the 2. So we know the 7 in box 1 is there. So these being in the same 3 columns is fine because it crosses boxes. They just can't both be 5s, but the thermo doesn't allow that anyway. I've now got a 4, 5, 6 triple in the box, so this is 7, 8 or 9. Meaning the 7, of course, has to appear in the top of this box. Now, can I do the same trick here? Now, remember this thermo goes in the other direction. These ones have all gone down. So 3 has put 9 here. If this was an 8, 9 would be here and 9 would be here. This cannot be 8. If this was a 6, this would put a 9 here, and 4, 5, 6 would also put 9. So this cannot be 5 or 6. So I've got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I don't think I know anything about those, however. Now, what about here? That's crossing boxes, so that's not as powerful. However, I do have most of this row filled, so I need 4, 6 and 9 in that box. Now, if this was a 9, that would have to be a 4, and it can't be, so that's not a 9. Okay. So if this is an 8, this is a 9, this is a 9, which makes that a 9. This would be the 7. Yeah, that all looks fine. Yeah, that works. Hang on, if this is a 9, this is a 6, this is a 5, this is a 7, this is a 4, yeah, that works. This is a 5 and is self-referential. This is a 7, 8. This is a 9, this is a, yeah, that all works. Two has to go in one of those. Because of those 2's. If 2 is here, it's self-referential, and that's fine. If 2 is here, this becomes 3. This becomes 1. Yeah, that all works. So we know 9 is in there. Okay, I just had a major interruption there where I lost everything I was working on, and it's now many hours later. So I've come back and I've recreated the grid up to where we were up to. The last thing we did on the grid was we put in these 2s and these 9s. While I was resetting everything, I did notice something that I had not done, which I will jump to now, which is in row 6, 4 can only be in those 2 spots. So this cannot be a 4. That not being a 4 means that this cannot point at that cell, so that cannot be a 5. So this is the point of the puzzle where you need to start thinking about the other ramifications. So the first trick that we had was that the thermos within the same box had to have the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 restriction caused by the feed of the digits, so which I explained earlier. There is another tricky ramification that is not at all obvious until you think about it. So, and I'll use row 6 as an example. So, within a row, there are 9 digits. There's 1 through 9, standard with any Sudoku. But we do know that whenever you have a situation like this, with the 7 pointing at the 1 and the 1 pointing at 7, that's 2 digits taken up. You have the 2 pointing at the 5 and the 5 pointing at the 2, that is 2 digits taken up. 3 pointing at the 8 pointing at the 3, that is 2 digits taken up. So there will always be digits pointing at each other that are not self-referential. There will always be an even number, which means because there is an odd number of digits in the row, there will always be an odd number of digits within a row that are self-referential. However, if you think about it from a column perspective, there can only be 1 9 in column 9. There can only be 1 8 in column 8. There can only be 1 7 in column 7. So in the entire grid, there can only be 9 self-referential digits, which means in each row, which must have an odd number of self-referential digits, there can only be 1 self-referential digit. If you ever end up with 3 self-referential digits or 2 self-referential digits by a placement of a digit in a row, you've broken the puzzle, because you'll have 2 self-referential digits, which means you'll have 7 digits that will mean that they need to point to each other, which you can't do because they happen in pairs, or you'll have 3, which means that you'll have 2 columns that will have double digits, or the same digit twice, which you can't do because you can only have 9 in the grid and each row must have at least 1. So each row must have at most 1. So because of this, you can start thinking about what are the limitations on rows that might cause there to be more than 1 self-referential digit. Rather than look for it, I actually remember the one that caused this to break open, so I'm going to jump straight to it. And it's this cell here. What happens if this is a 3? If this is a 3, this becomes a 1. And I'll actually do it by putting the digits in, because I feel this is a lesson from the puzzle, and it's important to understand sort of the logic behind what we're doing here. So if this digit is a 3, this becomes a 1, and we end up with 2, 4, 6 in here. If 2 was here, then this would need to be a 3, but it can't be because we've already put 3 in the box. So the only place we can put 2 is here, a self-referential digit, and this becomes a 4, 6. But if this is a 4, 6, this becomes a 5, which is the second self-referential digit in the row, which is impossible because you must have no more than 1 per column and you have to have at least 1 per row. So that does not work. So what you end up with is the situation where this 1, 3 must be a 1. And we can take 1 out of each of those. Now that being a 1 is self-referential, but we do get a 2 here, which makes that a 1. We get a 3 here, which makes that a 1. And from there, hopefully we can get more information into the puzzle. So in this top box, we've now got 2, 4, 5 and 6. In order for this to be a 2, this would need to be well, it can't have 2 here because there's a 2 in the row. So there is a 2 pointing down. So this is not 2 because there's 2 taking both of those. So the 2 ends up here. 2 is in 3, so that means 3 must be in 2. And we've locked in the 3 and the 2. This is not a 1, this is a 4, 6, which means 3 must be in one of those 2 cells, which matches from that, and that being a 7, 8. We've now got a 4, 5, 6 triple in the row and a 1, 2, 3 in the box, which makes this a 7, 8, 9. This gives us a 7, 8, 9 triple in the box, so this becomes a 4, 5, 6. So 8 must be in here, which means 8 is not here because 8 must be pointed to by 4, 5, 6. This can no longer be 7. And the only place for an 8 is now the self-referential digit in this row, which is here. If this, and now we can use the same logic again here. If this was a 9, this would have to be a 7, and we would end up with 2 self-referential digits in the row, which cannot happen. So these must point at each other. And we're getting a whole heap of digits just from understanding the restriction that is caused by only being able to have one self-referential digit per column, but needing to have at least one self-referential digit per row. So what else can we determine? So these are 3 known digits now. 3 known digits. They are 1, 3 and 9. And that all matches up to the 4, 5, 6. So I'm not sure what more I can do with that. This can no longer be a 9. These are 2, 4, 5 and 6. So what are we missing from here? No, there's no 2 there because 2 must be there. So this is also a 4, 5, 6 triple. 1, 2, 3, 4. No, there's no, that's not correct. There is an 8 in there. So this is 4, 6, 8. So this is 4, 5, 6, 8. There's got to be a 3 in one of those 2. So one of these is going to be a self-referential 3. So 2 has to be there, there, or there, which works for the given the 2s we already have. So that's fine. So what do I get next? If this is a 9 and becomes self-referential, they become 4, 6. If this is a 6, this becomes a 9 and that becomes a self-referential 4. That all looks okay. Three, 9. This can't be a 5 because I can't put a 2 there. This can't be a 5 because there's already a 5 in there. So there must be a 5 in one of those 2, so that becomes a 4, 6. So that means this can't be a 9. So 9s can only go there, and in this box 9s can only go there. So 9 must be in one of those 2. So one of these 2 must be a 5, because I can't put 9 in any of those, and because 9 is restricted to those, I can't put 9 in any of those. So the only place 5 can go now is in one of those two, so this becomes a 4, 6, so 7 cannot go there. Well, today has just been a day of interruption after interruption, so third time's the charm. So, where we had just gotten to was we just locked 9 into those two cells in box 8. So 9 can't go in either of those, so that can't be a 4 or a 6. Okay, what's next? 5 is not here anymore, so 5 must go on that thermo. So if that's a 6, that's a 5, that's a 4, and that's a 6, which doesn't work. So you cannot put a 6 there, that must be a 9. So there is no 9 there. So now we've got the self-referential digit in this row. So this can't be a 6, this has to be a 4, this has to be a 6, because otherwise we would have more than one self-referential digit. It's almost tempting to colour these as so we know where the self-referential digits are. I don't think we've got any others than those. So that's not a 9. So we've got 4, 5, 6 and 8 that can go in these now.
I'll take a summon in a minute. I just need to
6 makes that a 5, so that becomes a self-referential digit. So we've now got all of those self-referential digits. So none of that can't be a 7 anymore, because it would be another self-referential digit. So that must be 8, that must be 7. So that they're not self-referential, and these are now 4, 5 and 6. This cannot be 5. This is a 4, 5, 6 triple, so these are, from what I can tell, 3, 7 and 8. That can't be 7, but I can put 4 into 3 or 8. So this is 3, 7, 8, so this is now a known pair. So 1 is what we have, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, this is a 1, 9 pair, which makes sense because of the 4, 6 pair pointing at them. This is a 4, 6 pair, so this becomes a 5, 8 pair, which means one of the 9s is there, one of the 9s is there. This 5, 8 pair makes that a 7, which makes it the self-referential digit in the row. going to start looking at 4 6 pairs. So this would be one of 4 or 6, this would be the other one. This would be blue, this would be green, so even just these 4 mean that that cell sees both 4 and 6. So this cell has to be 5, which makes this a 3, which makes this a 1, which makes this a 9. That being a 1 makes this a no, wait. That becomes a 5, so that becomes a 3, and we take 3 out of those. Helps if I pay attention. 5 comes out of there, and I've got this weird deadly pattern that I hope gets resolved by something. That is a very weird deadly pattern. There's a 4 6 pair there, so this becomes a 5, so this becomes a 1. There is no 1 in those. That becomes the 9, so that becomes a 5, that becomes an 8, that becomes a 9. All of this because of pointing. So these are 2, 4 and 6. That can't be a 2 because I can't put an 8 there. So this becomes the 2, this becomes the 8. There is no 8 there. So now I've got a 4 6 pair, which means 2 and 7 have to appear in those 2 cells, which means this has to be a 3 and become its self-pointing digit. This becomes a 4 6. So I have to put a 3 into one of those. This is a triple. 1 2 3 4 6 and 8. This can't be 6. This I can't colour. But these I can. This is green, this is blue, this is green, this is blue.
Yeah, just give me a sec, I'll swap it when I'm not zoning between areas.
So blue has to go here.
I'm kind of surprised it changed because I don't think I've been in a raid since Thursday.
So that means blue has to be 4. So I can select all of the blues and make them 4, all of the greens and make them 6. I'm now going to uncolour because otherwise I will get confused. So I can take 4 out of there. So we've got 7 and 8 in there. I can take 3 out of there because we have to put 7 and 8 in 5 and 6, and we have to put 5 and 6 in 7 and 8. 4 becomes a 9, 6 becomes a 1. That makes this a 1 and this a 9, and this breaks the deadly pattern because the 6 points at the 9, the 1 points at the 4. There is no 4 in there. So one of these is self-referential, the other one puts a 2 into one of those 2 cells. These are a known triple, which is 3, 4 and 5. There's a 3 and a 5 here, so this becomes a 4. So this is a 3 or a 5. One, two, that's the self-referential digit. So 6 has to be a 3 and 5 points at 4. So that all works. There's no 4 in any of that, so that becomes 8 and that becomes 6, and 6 is pointing at wait. I know 4 is pointing at 8 and 6 is self-referential, so that works.
I'm good for some.
There's no 4 here, so 8 can come out of there, which it could have anyway.
Sure, just what you need for Father's Day.
This becomes a 5, this becomes a 6, so 5 means that's a 7, that's an 8, that means that's an 8, that is not an 8, so this becomes the 5, because 5 and 8 have to point at each other. Across the top here we need 1, 2, 4 and 6, so this can't be a 4, so 4 becomes the self-referential digit. I can't have multiple self-referential digits, so that has to be 2. 6, that has to be 2. That becomes 2. This 2 looks down here. We get 7, of course. I could have done that anyway because I had the 6 and the 7 pointing at each other. 4 has to point to 2, so all of this could have been resolved earlier. And now I can just finish this off with normal Sudoku. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7, and that finishes the puzzle. So that's 159 with 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8 by Panthera. It is, I find this rule set really interesting, and the tricks you have to do to discover these thermo restrictions on digits within the same box, where you have to form the triples, I found very challenging to find. And then the deduction about the limitations on the pointing pairs, forcing there to be only one self-referencing digit in each row, so that you had to ensure that you only had a single digit of that number in the column, because you can't repeat digits in a column. Yeah, all of that caused this to tie together really well, but it is not an easy puzzle when you first discover the rule set. I hope you enjoyed that video, and I hope I did Panthera's puzzle justice. Thank you very much for watching.